Blog Talk Radio.
Hey guys, this is Those Guys with your host, Matt Marrero, along with the other host,
Satish Ram. Good evening, or good morning, depending on when you are listening.
Yes, depending. So here we are doing a lot of Steven Universe this week, and this is a heck of a lot of fun because I'm getting to watch new Steven Universe, new to me, old to everyone else. Like, they're in Season 4 right now, and we're still Season 3, and today we're talking about Season 3, Episodes 7 to 9. I don't know what to say about these three because these are just really good episodes.
Yeah,
like 9 might be the weakest, but not in a bad way.
Yeah, and 8, Mr. Greg is potentially one of my favorite episodes in the entire series to date, and I've shamelessly watched that episode about 20 times now, this being like the 20th or so, and it's not even me making an exaggeration. I have watched that episode about 19, 20 times because it's really, really good, and I've replayed Pearl's song so much.
Pearl's song is the best song in the series right now.
It was it was an amazing display, the entire episode. And again, it displayed the great mix of what is comedy and like little things about Steven Universe that are special. There's a lot going on in this episode because, leave it to a show like Steven Universe to make their musical episode incredibly plot relevant and not something that you can skip over ever, and still make it a really fun musical episode. So there was really just, it's so much. But when I first saw this, I needed to talk to you about it, and we couldn't because of where we were in terms of Steven Universe podcast. But I saw this when it aired, and I couldn't believe it. I fell in love with this episode. And so I've watched it over and over since then, just for the sake of enjoying it. And I can't imagine anyone not feeling this way, to be honest, where, sometimes I'll sit here and make the argument, this was a really good thing, and I'll tell you why, and I don't think I have to do that with this episode. I think it's very evident to anybody.
Yes, what I wanted to say at first was this is my first time watching this because, as I've said before, I wait until we're going to do the episode podcast-wise to try and watch it, unless it was something like Gravity Falls where we knew Season 2 was the end. So I started watching a little bit more when we got a little bit behind. But even then, I didn't want to do it too many times, right? But because I knew the show was ongoing, right, and obviously they were doing Steven bombs and everything like that, I thought, you know what, I'll wait a little bit. So I did. But my God, here we are, and it's just the only thing I'll say, because I know you're like, oh, who could not like this? I would just say people who aren't fans of musicals.
Maybe.
Now, that doesn't mean that yes. I mean, that I'm saying potentially, not everyone. But yeah, so if you're not a fan of musicals and you really, really don't like musicals, well, this episode might not be your favorite. You might like the scenery. You might like what Greg wants to do with his money, right? Just have fun with his family. You're probably going to like the fact that Greg and Pearl have now been not even reunited because they were never united. So now they're finally getting along in general. But I can understand why someone will go, oh, no, but it's not my favorite because you don't like musicals. See, I love musicals. So for me, this is one of my favorites, if not my favorite.
I only recently learned that I like musicals. But I really like musicals. So
yeah, it's hilarious.
Here I am.
Well, here's the thing, though. I'm not going to be a piece of shit by saying this. I'm going to put this right out there. You grew up with Bollywood films.
This is a very valid point.
I love it. You're just like, man, I never even heard music in a film till I was, born. It's like, yeah, dude.
This is a completely relevant point. I'm not even going to argue with you or call you an ass because it's a completely relevant point.
Yeah, no, I feel like I've discovered the most, I guess, public holy grail. It's the holy grail. It's just outside. But it's hidden. It's actually in public. People are looking at it right now. There's no holy grail. It's just
it's funny for the record if anyone is confused as to why I would then say I just recently discovered I like musicals. I hadn't seen an American musical on TV in until maybe college. because
yes, and and we went to some musicals, mostly high school stuff, because
because I was with you to a musical, and that was
yes, you went to a musical with me and more people, because we brought people to my old high school, the one that I currently work at. But
like, with other people, it wasn't just
no, because you worded it really because you worded it really. You didn't say like we both because you could have went we both went on a date, and I'm like, that's a full sentence. You were like, you went with you and me. I'm like, what the fuck?
I went with you and
me. Let me clarify.
But yeah, we went so that was probably my first experience of like a performed musical, and I saw a Cabaret, but this was all college, and I didn't see Grease until I was in my college years. So I wasn't really. And I say American musicals as in non-Bollywood musicals, not, to be that kind of person, but mentally I was describing it that way. Because I don't know if Cabaret is American or not, but...
Well, okay, fair point. No, you're right.
You know what I mean?
I don't want to be... Yes.
Yeah, I don't want to be a dick here. Because I just realized that I'm like, shit.
Alan Cummings is the most American human being. No, he is not.
Yeah, pretty much, exactly. He was he was lovely. But so musicals are still kind of a new thing, and musicals on TV aren't that new. I mean, I saw Scrubs' musical episode. I've seen musical episodes of certain things that I like.
Yeah, but it's episodes. You know the musical episode trope thing, but not act. You don't sit there and you're like, oh, let me watch Sweeney Todd. Let me watch Phantom.
Right.
Let me watch Les Mis.
Right.
But anyway.
I'm supposedly going to end up watching those one day. I mean, I can't see a reason why I wouldn't. I would love to, but.
Oh, okay, perfect. So we'll sit down and we'll watch a few. But it's funny. I'll show you,
by the way. But
I'll show you a cast recording of Phantom. I'm no Gerard Butler. But anyway, I'll show you the cast recording.
I want to see Phantom just because of. I feel like it's one of those things that I would understand a lot of I understand a lot of things that I don't know about necessarily. Like, I understand Star Wars references, even though I've never seen a Star Wars film, right? I don't really understand Phantom references outside of The Mask because I don't know anything about it. So I'd like to see it just to kind of, fill up my pop culture area.
Yeah, but... So this show, looking at these three, right, in order, the way, this show can just mess with my emotions so easily. And I know that I don't think this was part of the Steven bomb, so it was not meant to be viewed like marathon the way that I am right now and you are right now.
I don't think it was either, by the way.
But it's just, the fact that I could get so mad at Marty, literally, fuming mad, and then be crying 5 minutes later. It's just in a very interesting. You all are playing with my emotions.
By the way, I apologize for cracks or issues in my voice because I'm not doing too well with my throat apparently.
Oh,
but
I haven't noticed any with you. I
can hear myself and I'm getting mad at myself, so I'm glad you can't.
Oh, it's interesting. No. Yeah.
No, that means good things.
Yeah.
So, Marty is a douche.
Let me explain why I hate him, though. Can I explain why I hate him?
Go for it.
Because
I want people to hate him.
All he needed was a little bit of work to actually make it work. Let me explain. Maybe I'm the one with bad morals here, but I feel like he could have just done both.
Yes, he definitely could. No, I understand exactly what you're saying. As a relatively, sharpened business person, not like I am a business student, but, I have a decent business mind.
What are we trying to do here? Podcast, you say? Over the internet. Anyway.
That's revolutionary. But no, you are absolutely right. And you can go on about it if you want because he could have easily had both. He could have had his cake and eaten it too. He could have given his son, let me remind everybody, his son, his moment, and still done his bullshit advertising shit, and he chose to be a dick about it. So he willingly chose to be a dick at every given opportunity.
He didn't even have to give him a moment like the way he was setting it up for Guac Cola. What he could have literally just said was, okay, hey, man, you're going to play in the background, and obviously, we'll promote you, but who's sponsoring it? Guac Cola, clearly, because they're paying my ass, right? So, you could have just had both. Yeah, maybe his son was a little bit I still feel like you're using me. But again, he's a slick, piece of shit, right? So Marty's real talk, right? you're, you know what I mean? Like, and all that stupid bullshit, right? And obviously the writers didn't want it that way because they wanted him to be the most sleaziest fuck in the world.
That's the thing,
because
yeah.
it would
it's
then
a credit to the
bring,
writers. It is a credit
yes.
to the writers because they made him with absolutely no redeemable qualities. Because even with giving Greg the check, he literally said, I'm legally required to give this to you. And then backhanded it with, don't say I didn't give you anything. Like, there is no mention ever of Marty ever doing anything decent. He is a sleazeball at every single opportunity and every time we see him in any episode.
I want to mention something, right? And this is very relevant, very important. Marty says, hey, the music business is done right by me, right? So you're thinking, oh, this asshole got lucky. He should go fuck himself, right? So that's your first thought. You're like, oh, asshole got lucky. But then you realize later, when Greg gets his check and when they see the commercial, that he just got money off of Greg's tune. So really, Marty should shut the hell up because anything that he got was straight from Greg. I mean, I don't know what else he's getting now. But again, that tune could have potentially put him on the map or at least put him out there like, oh, yeah, no, I'm the one that, sold the rights to that. So even though Greg got $10 million, I don't think it's all like $10 million to Greg. I'm sure that's just a subsection of what Marty could have gotten. And that's why Marty's big enough now to, in other words, Marty maybe is better now, but it's one of those things where it's like, okay, if Marty made, let's say Greg made $10 million. Marty maybe made like 50. Let's pretend like Greg got 1 in 5. Even though that's very, very, very generous, especially for someone like Marty who's a piece of shit. So, but Greg gets $10 million, Marty got 50. It's a lot easier to work, to not be good at something, but have $40 million to kind of try to, promote yourself and promote your brand. You know what I'm saying? Like you can be terrible, but if you have enough money to do something, then it's still going to be out there regardless, or people still give you a shot. It's like, oh, hey, we've seen that guy around. That guy clearly knows his shit. He's been around us. You see what I mean? Like, do you remember, what was her name? Rebecca something.
Sorry.
What?
I said Vidalia.
No, Rebecca something. The Friday song? Friday.
It's not Rebecca Black, is it?
Okay, it is. Because I'm like, not Sugar. I'm like, nope, that's someone we love. Rebecca Black, yeah. So that song, I'm pretty sure her and then some of her friends that also had music videos. Remember, it wasn't just the song, it's music videos to the song.
Right.
They just had rich family. So they were like, we love you. Let's put you in the music video. Now, mind you, no one liked the song, but that doesn't matter because it was out there. People were watching it, and if they were older, they potentially could have capitalized on that. But they were high schoolers at the time, I believe. So, obviously they couldn't do much with it. Although I know that she released another song a year or two after that was, Saturday or some shit. Point is that you have enough money, and if they had ads on the video, they still could have made a decent amount over being a meme. So my point is that, again, Marty clearly hasn't changed. Maybe has even gotten worse. But damn it, look at how much money he's making. From the outside anyway, looking in. Look at how much money he's able to make. Because why? He made that money. I assume that was his first big break with Greg. I assume.
Yeah, and I mean... I assume that's what happened. And you're right, by the way, in your assessment of the fact that if Greg is getting $10 million, Marty's probably getting 50. Because
or probably a lot more. Because again, Marty's not in any way first off, the music business is not usually set up well for the artist. That's just, and I'm not trying to take a stand here. I'm just being legitimate.
You're correct.
You look at the numbers, you look at the stats. That's true, right? That's why artists make a lot of their money when they go on tour. And that's why they go on tour. So if you're like, why is this artist breaking down and their voices, and they're always sick? It's always because they're partying. It's like, no, because they tour so much because that's how they make back their revenue. Anyway, so the point is especially with online streaming now, it makes it even worse for some of them. Anyway, Point is that if that's how it is in real life, right? And this somewhat mirrors real life, minus the gem thing, maybe. You kind of sit back and you're like, yeah, if Greg got $10 million, Marty has to be sitting on a lot of fucking cash right now.
Mm-hmm.
Like to the point where they paid him to promote Guac-Cola, but I don't think they paid for all of the shit like the Teamsters and the and like the RV. Like I assume that's on him.
It could be. But I was gonna if they did pay for all that, he's just really, really greedy. Where he's the guy
regardless, he's a slime bag. Fuck
he's
him.
the guy that has like $100 million but wants $200. You get me?
Well, okay. There's nothing wrong with that. At the expense of others, though, yes.
Yeah, I mean, especially at the expense of his son. Like that's the thing.
Yes,
so,
exactly.
Like, he's such a dick, and he comes in here, and it's funny because the shirt he's wearing in the beginning is the Guac-Cola shirt. So it's not like they hid this from us. He has that shirt on. So he just he stirred up an opportunity to promote Guac-Cola. And he said shit like, oh, this is going to be father-son bonding time. Like, at every corner, he is such an ass. And I'm so impressed by he has no redeemable qualities. Not a single redeemable quality. Because lest we forget, he got Vidalia pregnant and left.
Yes, and what I like about this show is that, and shows can do this every once in a while. We talk about this when we talk about WWE, Monday Night Raw and Friday Night SmackDown, right? Or it's Tuesday now. Jesus Christ.
Guac-Cola.
No, it's Tuesday Night SmackDown. Jesus Christ, how long have I been sleeping? Anyway, so my point is that, you can have, you have a character like Marty, and some might say, oh, but that's not how all, let's say, dads are, or that's not how all people are. And you're like, that's right. That's why you have someone like Greg. That's why you have someone like Yellowtail. That's why, you know what I mean? Like, it would be a problem if every male character, let's say, was Marty, or just in general, we had a lot more, Greg still isn't the best dad, but he's trying. And he's good at dad things, right, especially with Steven with the baby, but he's still trying, regardless of him living out from a van and things like that. You know what I mean? He still is trying, and that's what matters, right? But my point, I think, isn't about, a men's thing. It's just that in general, it is good that this show has, characters with depth. You're not perfect, nor perfectly good or perfectly evil. But with someone like Marty, it's like, hey, listen, there are some people out there that are just like this. That's what I like. Where someone might say, no, but a more real-world view would be if Marty had, some kind of inner turmoil. But some people don't.
Yeah.
Many do.
Because pretty much everybody in this show gets development and a nice plot line and shit like that. So I'm really happy that there is at least a character that sucks. I'm really glad there's one character that has literally no redeemable qualities.
And the reason why I was comparing it to WWE, for any of you that are a little bit confused, Satish and I have talked long and hard about the women's division, right, in WWE, at one point called the Divas division, and how, some of you hear the word diva and you think, oh, like a prima donna or, like a diva, like a celebrity who's a little bit, quote unquote, and a word only used for women, catty, right? So those are the words and those are the actions associated to the word diva. So we had a problem where it would seem as if all of the women in the women's division at one point, if not all, my God, 9 out of 10, right, would have this same character trait. This catty round, oh, we're going to scratch each other's eyes out. We're not fighting. The men, gladiators, warriors. The women, round, right? Now, even though I'm happy that's changed, we do have one or two characters like that. But it's okay to me, and some people might give me flack for that, but it's okay for me because some people do exist who are like that, right? That's the thing. They exist. So to try to wash them all away as if no one exists who could ever be, oh, it's all about me, Flair, I'm OMG, right? People like that exist. So you can't just sit there when you're writing a show with characters and say, oh, no, none of those characters exist. No, you want to be real. You want to have people connect and be like, oh, I know someone like that. You have to have strong women. You have to have women who aren't susceptible to, to act like that the same way you do with the men, right? You have so many different varied male characters on all different kinds of platforms. You can do the same thing with women, right? But you really have to make sure how you present it. So looking at Steven Universe overall, again, same thing. It's like you have a plethora of characters of all different genders, right? And you kind of sit back and you're like, okay, cool. So, they're all varied in different ways. But this one asshole, Marty, he's just an asshole. And it's like, good. That's what I'm saying. I'm happy about that. I'm happy that we can have, variations. But again, if you look at someone, you're like, that seems like a caricature. That seems a bit too much. It's like, but there are people that are like that. Big world out there.
Yeah, and again, like I said, I really do think a lot of the characters on the show all have redeeming qualities. Like, even someone as small as the mailman in Jamie has his own little story and focus, Mm-hmm. And that's pretty important in the long run because that shows the quality of the writing and what the show is willing to do. But it's really good because you do have that contrast that one person is terrible. Like, unredeemably, absolutely, no matter what, a piece of shit.
Yeah, because all it could have taken was just, my son is going to DJ in the background. Like, he could have still been a jerk about it, but not a piece of fucking shit. You know what I mean? Like, it's just a tiny, maybe little jerk. Like, okay, I know I promised father-son bonding time, but how about you just stay in the back and DJ, and then I'll promote Guacola, and you can even get some of the cash, my man. Like, at no point did he even make, at least, because he said you should be grateful, but he didn't even say, like, you should be grateful because, some of that, coming your way, I can help you be an even bigger DJ. None of that. Just be grateful that I am even giving you my presence. I am your dad who hasn't been here for 9 fucking years. Well,
no,
no,
probably.
He's 16, 8. No. He said, about, like, I started growing when I was 9. Oh, yeah, you're right. So it could have even been, like, 10 or 12.
Yeah, there's no guarantee that he was ever there, for any of that.
No, yeah. So that's why it's just like, I fucking hate you so much because you could have just tried just a little bit. That's why I hate him even more, I think, because it's not even like he was like, let me just try to kind of work everything, make it all work, at least pull the wool over his eyes. No, he thinks he's so fucking big, just like he fucking used to with Greg, that he can just say shit like that to you, and you're just supposed to take it.
Mm-hmm.
I fucking hate that guy. Matt, are you okay? No, I fucking hate that guy. So that's how I feel.
And you have the subtleties in this episode, like the contrast. You have 3 dads in this episode. You have Yellowtail, you have Greg, and you have Marty. And you can see the contrast in who they are. You can see Greg taking the humble route in front of Steven with Marty. Because Greg knows he's scum. But he calmly is just, and probably wants to hurt him because he was close with, he grew up with, all of this in him. And doesn't do it. And then you have Yellowtail lamenting the fact that he probably, made Sour Cream upset and brought him his DJ equipment and encouraged him to DJ. That's really nice. And you have Marty being a complete terrible person.
Yeah. I love Yellowtail, and I think, the fact that you fucking ended up having Sour Cream yell at his dad and end up basically sounding just like Yellowtail when yelling, I was like, that is the sweetest thing. I'm so happy they included that. And then having him call him Yellow Dad. I was like, this is too much for my heart. But then I calmed down, and I thought, well, let's see where this money is going to take Greg. And then fucking 5 minutes later, I'm just bursting into tears like, I'm so sorry, Pearl.
Yeah, no, it was really good. Because it's funny, if you do watch Monroe, the emotions do run high like that. Because you come off sitting there like, wait, $10 million? Holy shit. That's the conclusion.
You know what I thought? I thought they weren't going to show it. Because cartoons, to try to stay culturally relevant, not only throughout, different areas, Russia, because obviously these shows get ported. They get imported, too. It's these shows get ported to different consoles. you can watch it on the Game Boy. Like, no, not anymore.
Yes,
anyway.
you can. Well, actually, you can't because Sour Cream uses it for DJing. But
yeah, right. But no, but I'll just say they get imported to other areas, but not just for that reason, I assume, because certain amounts of money could mean different things depending on like what time period you are. Like in the 80s, it could have been like, whoa, that's like $50,000, and now it's still a lot. But if you like convert it for what it meant then to now, you'd be like, whoa, that's more than $50,000, right? So currency exchange is always a big thing. So they decided not only to show it, but to pick a number that I would hope, no matter what year you're in, you're like, wow, 10 million, I hope.
Mm-hmm.
Like, let's really hope we just don't get so. Well, an egg costs 3.2 billion marks. Like, I really fucking hope we don't get there. So with where we are right now, $10 million, it's a lot of money.
Yep.
So I'm really shocked that they even showed it. Like, I was like, wow, good for them, because cartoons never show that, dude. Think about it. Every time you see a cool check, you never see the amount unless it's like a show set in a different universe, so they have a fake currency.
Yeah, no, and it's also relevant because, oh my God, that's still a lot of money. That is a lot of money. Like, even just for one little song, which...
Well, it got picked up by a huge burger chain.
I was going to say, I assume the chain is something like McDonald's or Wendy's or something, where it's like $1 billion corporation. So for them, like paying $100 million for advertising is nothing because of how much they're raking in. But
yes,
it's just funny to me, like $10 million, and so that transitions right into, as you were doing, into Mr. Greg, which is a special episode. Also because it took place in New York.
Oh, yes. I was so happy that they, not even just New York, I was happy they brought Pearl back into, like, oh, yes, Rose liked this, so that they could resolve it. Because they had been away from it for so long, where if that was just a one-off thing, I would have kind of been frustrated. Like, guys, are you seriously just, like, not that she just got over it. Like, again, Rose is technically dead at this point, So it's like, technically. So, of course, they can kind of feel... like something for Rose. Like, you don't just get over someone's death, even if it's been years, right? So, like, it's not just like, oh, yeah, no, I'm fine with that happened, whatever, moving on. Especially if you really cared about that person. But, like, it was just a weird thing to have happen out of nowhere, I think, because they've kind of kept it, like, on the down low, I guess. They haven't really, like, referenced it or really kind of went into that well for a while. And they've had shit to do. But still, even though it's kind of like, well, Rose is clearly involved in some way or another in certain things that have gone on recently or could be involved, nothing from Pearl. So that's why after the stuff that she had going with Steven a while ago, you were thinking, oh, okay, so in a way it's over. But, of course, it's not, because just because it's solved with Steven doesn't mean it's solved with Greg. And I think that was very interesting because just this entire episode, it was so, like, crazy to think about. Also, Empire City was interesting, dude, is they can't call it New York, but in a song,
they can say
Greg can
Brooklyn
mention...
and the Bowery.
Yeah. I was like,
why can't they call it New York?
I don't know. That's what I'm saying.
Okay.
I guess they don't want to commit it to being in that universe or in our universe.
That might be it.
But it's so interesting. Yeah.
Because they're very clear. I mean, they call New Jersey, Jersey. So they're very clear.
In my opinion, that's a joke.
Right, but I mean, like, they're really clear about their references because, like, there is we're in Beach City, right? And there's, like, an Ocean City down in Maryland area. So it's not completely far-fetched to think, like, this takes place on the East Coast of the U.S.
Oh, okay. I see your point. And that's why they usually don't go to the city often. And what's funny is, even though they went to New York, they stayed in the fanciest hotel, and I'm like, yeah, that's not New York, New York. Like, that's because, again, they wanted to just have this musical episode, old school musical with the suits and everything, and I loved it. I was like, this is so old school in terms of being a musical. It's great. Yeah. But it was such a good episode, dude. Like, I was so confused about how they would ever make a musical episode out of 11 minutes. But they did. And what's interesting is, in my opinion, I guess because the show has had musical numbers in it before, in my opinion, they were able to make it work without making it seem clunky. Like every song had to do with one another, and they transitioned well enough. And I mean, especially the fact that Pearl's musical number went right into both Steven and Greg hearing it. That matters, and I'll explain to you why that matters. Because when you make a good musical, the musical numbers need to have something to do with the plot, and they need to advance the plot. So it can't just be like, you know, like if you were just like, man, the weather sucks, man, the weather sucks, what does the weather do? It sucks. And that was it, and you just kind of like went on with the show, and no one ever mentioned the weather again, and the weather has nothing to do with you psychologically or anything. That's a bad musical. Like, the weather needs to relate to what the fuck's going on in your life, or anyone, or other people, you know, chime in. You could know about new characters from it. It's a weird song regardless, but it has to tie in somehow. And I feel like all the songs tied into what they were doing and advanced the plot further, and that's the whole point. And that's why I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, I mean, so, and it's stuff from the beginning to the end that I really, really liked. Like, okay, let's start in the beginning. The first song, I really liked it because it's cute and it's Greggish. Because you can see the type of human being Greg is now. Like, even though he's got the $10 million, he's just sitting there. Like, that was his honest feeling. Like, but I have Steven. And the stuff that he starts singing about with the money is involving Steven. It's like, let's take a trip. I could bring you to college. I could do anything for you. Like, Greg is so lovely as a human being that he was given $10 million, and he's sitting there looking at his son like, I have you, though. And having you, you know, being with you doesn't cost anything, so I was content. And that's really, like, that was really touching to me. And I don't think, you know, it goes by the boards, because I always talk about how much I love Greg as a character, so of course I'm boasting about him because I like him as a character personally. But I just really love that. Like, that's the whole concept of this first song. Like, hey, it doesn't cost anything to do the stuff I want to do with you. And that's really, really sweet. And then they go into a switch in the song, which musically was really cool, because they switched to the fast pace for New York. And like they said, Brooklyn and Bowery, which are actual places in New York City. And it's not like we live here, so we know that. It's like, that's kind of cool to us. Like, Matt lives in Brooklyn, technically. He won't admit it. But
no, like, I do. I just live on the border of Queens and Brooklyn, so it's a weird situation. It's the same.
This will be a never-ending debate. This will be a never-ending debate.
I've discussed it on the show before. It gets me mad because, like, I'll talk to my Long Island friends, because I lived in Long Island at one point during my life. You know, I always talk about this. I'll never not say this. And I was just like, because technically, if you want to be real technical, Queens and Long Island are attached in a way that, you know, they are attached. But not in a way where it's just like, oh, yeah, I got to go from Queens to Long Island. It's just like a 20-minute drive. We're good. Like, no, that's a 2-hour drive. So to say, like, oh, you're on Queens, you never left Long Island. All right, cool. Get on the LIRR. Take it, you know, about like an hour and a half. Oh, then take the train to get to my place, which is about like 20 or 30 minutes. But please tell me how I'm just so close, because I never really left. I get so mad.
It's like it took some of my friends. Left.
It took some of my friends coming over to film. And mind you, I'm not saying Long Island is so small that every place is 20 minutes away, to be fair. But, like, you can take buses to certain places in Long Island and be like, yeah, no, like, I got there okay, or, you know, whatever. Or, oh, I needed a car. It took about an hour. But to get here, it's like about 2, maybe even 2.5 hours if there's traffic. So to sit there and be like, you never left. It took bringing friends over to film our Let's Plays, those guys play that are located on YouTube, to finally get some of them to be like, oh, shit, you're right. My bad. It was great. They're like, we're so sorry. I was like, damn straight you are. But anyway, yeah, I really loved this episode so much. So much. And, I mean, my God, Pearl's song is just amazing. Like, there needs to be, it's weird because I don't know how they would release all of these on a soundtrack overall, because many of them are very short. Unless there's full versions of every single song, many of them are short, in my opinion.
Well,
right?
Or some of them are short for the show.
Yes, but Pearl's song felt like the longest, the most complete, the most
long.
real,
It was
like that.
It was almost 2 minutes, if not 2 minutes.
Yeah, like that can work, but I was wondering what they would do with all the other songs, because I know there's enough of them that they would last a while. But I'm just wondering, like, because they should sell these on a soundtrack. Or, I mean, this one should definitely be on iTunes if it isn't already.
Yeah, this was a special song.
Yeah.
And it's funny because I could spend a long time talking about this. I'm going to try to keep my thoughts, like, calm. But the little things crack me up, too. Like, dude, the end of the first song, where he's like, and let's bring Pearl, and there's just Pearl and lights. I laughed so hard.
One light.
That made me laugh so hard. Because it was just, let's bring Pearl. I was like, what? Like, that was a nice visual gag for me. Like, Pearl, okay.
Yeah.
And so they bring her, and then, I love Mr. Greg, gazillionaire, and just drops money, and immediately the guy's like, hey, break a leg, it's Mr. Greg. And I'm like, bastards. That's very, accurate, but...
You know what's very interesting? All of them singing, right? To people who aren't from New York, you're like, okay, so this is dramatized because it's a musical episode. All of them are probably, like, film majors. Like, all of them, not just film, by the way, because in New York you have to do everything. They're not just film majors. All of them are just, all of them are just out-of-work college students that that are just liberal arts majors. What?
You have to, you understand as you as in Matt, but you as the listener have to understand that you will run into so many people doing work like that, work like I did in the, when I worked in in a restaurant where the Mets play and stuff like that. All these people who want to be actresses or actors or film majors or something, who are doing what they can in the meantime. And so hotel employees, a lot of hospitality positions are filled by college students who can't find a job, or film majors, actresses, people like us, you and me, who are aspiring to build a business in podcasting and YouTube stuff, And it's really funnily accurate that you say that, because in my head I'm like, those are all people who want to be on Broadway. Just in the meantime, they're all just working for the hotel, and they're like, this is my big break, collectively. So...
Yeah. So I have a question for you. Do you think, because they didn't say it outright, do you think Greg spent all the money?
Oh, no, he didn't.
There's think no he didn't?
Because it's funny, because the whole Le Bill thing was like, I know it was meant to be like, ugh, like that's a lot. But, okay, if the show is willing to sit there and show us the $10 million figure, right? Mm-hmm. I can't imagine them having Greg blow $10 million on one trip.
Well, here's the thing.
Cannot.
He doesn't need all of it. Again, he already has Steven. I assume he has some tucked away for a rainy day. Like, maybe his van gets hit with a meteor, and he's like, I still got some of that money. But something inside tells me that, like, because here's the thing. They didn't just go to a hotel. The way they made the room look, even putting the slide away, because obviously the slide was like something that wasn't supposed to be there. But minus the slide, he didn't just rent some nice hotel room. Like, look, I haven't seen fancy New York hotel rooms. I know you did, right? Because of our mutual friend's wedding. That you were the best man.
And I rented
you saw a fancy hotel room
too when I was there. Yeah, because of my date at the time. It's okay to talk about. Yeah.
There's a difference. No, I'm just saying, like, I didn't realize. Like, I was buying, not that it wasn't bad to talk about. I wanted to make sure you went to the fancy hotel.
I did, yep.
I know that that wasn't a hotel necessarily. That was more like a fancy, like, Trump-level apartment. Like, I say Trump, like, the way Trump Tower is set up, the way those apartments are set up, those are like apartments, not so much like, oh, this is a hotel room. Like, they basically rented an apartment for the night. Like a fancy fucking apartment.
But I mean, I look at it and I'm like, even with everything combined, I can't imagine them canon-wise having him burning more than $1 million in that night.
No, he burned a lot more than $1 million. Not $10 million. First off, the room could have cost $1 million.
I think it's overkill to think that he would burn that much in the.
I don't think he burned $10 million. I mean, I'm just wondering.
Okay.
But like,
so as long
you have to understand
though. That much.
The room is because the room alone has to be like $1 million. I mean, imagine a Trump Tower type room for the night. Like, that's not chump change. And then they got tailor-made suits. Apparently, yet Steven fucking pay off the guy to just walk away. Also, something major, at least to me, I assume because of the money he put down and potentially more money, they were paid to actually dance around. Also, the food. I don't know where they got their pizza, but something tells me that they were just like, let's order in from the fucking, like, hotel, and that's not cheap.
I still think Maxie cost like $1 million. I really will stand by that.
I think you're wrong. A lot, like, very, very wrong. Like, it's funny. I've never had this kind of, like, no, you have to be wrong, Satish, but, like, dude, money, New York.
I know.
We live with family.
Yeah. I'm not. I mean, I don't think it's as bad as you think it is. Like, it's not something I can afford ever, at least right now. But it's a situation where I don't think the room cost $1 million. I think everything together is about $1 million, maybe, that he would have spent. It was one night. Right. And with everything combined, I don't think... And, like, you have to understand how much money $1 million is.
You have to understand how much a shitty place will try to pretend to cost. Like, I'm not saying it should have cost that much, but you'll understand how, like, oh, well, you know, we're the most fanciest, we're the best. Like, I don't know. Like, I'm just saying that, like...
You can drop $5,000 in New York and get a 5-star hotel.
That looks just like that, minus the slide.
Yeah, minus the slide. Like, even if
really?
For their most expensive room, let's say you triple that. Because I've seen, there are some places where, I'll give you an example of something that I learned from my ex. There's a place out where you can rent a house for a weekend. A luxury house that basically looks like what that entire place did for $15,000 for the weekend.
Okay.
So even if the room costs $50,000, right? That's that's 5% of $1 million. You get what I'm saying?
Okay.
Like you would still
you
would still need to spend that amount 20 times over to hit $1 million.
Okay. All right, I'll give that to you. It's just that I've seen certain places. I guess my brain is telling me because of a rent for a month would be $1 million.
Right.
For some
and that's
places.
Perhaps true. But this was one night.
Right.
Now, probably the most expensive night Greg will ever have in his life because of Les Bill. I love that. Les Bill. Like, it wasn't just the bill, it was Les Bill. And I'm like, you pricks. Like, that
was really funny.
Like, you know, it's the French hotel. It's super expensive. Everything is expensive because it's different.
Yeah.
And they're passed out. Everything's happy. And Pearl's song, as we both have discussed, it was really special. I mean, that was something they needed to address. And it's hard because it's like she told Greg. It's not like she hated Greg. She lost. She never felt like she would lose. And she went into that situation full well thinking there was no way that anyone could ever outdo her. And then they did.
Yeah.
And that never left her because the result of that is she's gone.
Yeah, no, it was really sad, I think, overall, because it always felt like it was against Greg. But finally, them able to talk, it just, we realized it wasn't. It was just she was in love. And it's canon now that she was in love, because I didn't want to say that it was canon or not, because you can have a lot of different feelings.
That's a really good thing to point out. You are 100% correct.
Yeah. Because I don't think we should do that.
Yeah, I agree with you. I agree with you 100%. It's really hard to put yourself in a situation where you want to say, oh, no, they're in love, because the series has heavily hinted towards it before.
Sorry, having phone issues.
Yeah, it's okay, I know.
Sorry about that.
Yeah, it's okay. But now the series directly states, like, I was in love and I lost. And now I have to be there for her son. And it's very easy for someone to sit there and think, well, like you just said, that Pearl hates Greg because it's like, oh, you killed Rose, in a way. But it's not that. She even says, I don't hate you. Rose is gone, and I lost to you. And So it's not like that can ever be resolved. And on top of that, that at the same time is exactly why Steven wanted them to bring them together. Like the line in the final song is, you both love me and I love both of you. And it's the idea of, like, you do have so much in common. You both lost Rose and you're suffering because you both loved her. And at the same time, you both love me as Steven. And you can relate over that. You can bond over that. In his head, they should be good friends. And it looks like that actually happened.
Yeah. It was a beautiful thing to see, really. Because I don't know, I guess I never expected to see it. So it was beautiful. That's what I'm saying. I never thought I'd see it.
Mhm.
So that was really nice. Now, moving on to the last episode, I think it was the weakest, but not the worst. But how do you feel about, like, focusing on Peridot and learning more about her from Homeworld, and apparently more about the version of Peridot that she is?
So that was interesting to me because it was like, wow, Homeworld's resources were dwindling, so we weren't supposed to have powers. Like, that was one of the few times that Peridot really admitted, like, essentially, I was crafted imperfectly. Like, I wasn't that who I am, and it's really interesting because we didn't know that to this point. We didn't know, like, Homeworld was dwindling the resources, because there is an idea of, like, why aren't, you look at the capabilities of the crystal gems, and especially someone like Rose Quartz, and you think, like, well, why don't other gems have that power? Do all gems have that power? And it seems like some of them do. Like, Peridot had latent metal controlling powers.
Yeah.
But she didn't know that. She went her entire existence without knowing that she had any kind of powers, and in fact was stating that to them, like, I have no powers at all. And that was like, oh, interesting. Which I guess puts out this idea that Homeworld was in more dire straits than they ever would have wanted anyone to think, that they needed, like, the resources from Earth or something.
Which, in a way, I guess is good.
Might be. I don't know if resources are just like mountains and shit, so they can build gems, But it's interesting, right? Like, I don't know if I'm having phone issues here too, by the way. I apologize because I can't hear you right now if you reply to me.
Sorry.
Yeah, it's
phone.
okay.
Again,
it's okay.
Very
it's
weird
okay.
issues tonight, everybody. This is what happens when we do. No, I'm good now. This is what happens when we do a show live. So anyway, but like I was saying though, the thing, like you were saying though, you asked me. I was saying that I guess it's good in a very karmic sense that this ended up happening, right? Because and I say that only because I assume they've been colonizing, yes, for resources, but again at the expense of others, and in a very bad way. So I do like that in a way. It's kind of like, oh yeah, they're reaping what they've sown. However, of course, that just means that they have to colonize things more. So there are some unlucky planets out there, I'm sure. But at least for Earth, they kind of make sense, like in a way, like, oh, that's why. But it's so interesting that it's weird. It's interesting that they're like, oh, I guess we'll just leave the Earth, whatever. We'll just get Jasper. But again, like we said a few episodes ago, it's not like they knew that the Earth isn't being, like they thought the cluster was still going to work. So I guess they're going to have to come back. But I don't know if they're going to bring Yellow Diamond because it sounds like they don't have a lot left.
Yeah, and it also seems like it would be quite a thing for Yellow Diamond to come down for. Because Yellow Diamond is, of course, like, no, screw that. I'd rather send everyone in my place.
Yes, eventually maybe, but I don't think just yet. So it's very interesting to see who else will come down to try to fight them. And because now we realize that they're fighting for their own existence. Like, we thought that they were fighting just to expand their empire. We now know that they're probably trying to fight just to live. So now that puts the burden, in a way, on the crystal gems, because it's like, okay, I know it can't happen at the expense of this planet, but are you really going to let your Homeworld die?
Yeah,
so that's what's interesting. Yes. Or is it not dying, is it just producing more? In other words, it's not like, from the looks of it, the crystal gems are really going to die with old age. So can we just let what we have run out or not even run out, because, again, it doesn't look like they've run out for thousands of years. So you can just let what we're doing keep going, just this kind of living, just keep going without having to make new members for your army. So there's a lot of interesting intricacies that we'll get to as the show goes on. A lot of strange stuff.
Also, Peridot's, affection towards that little alien plushie made me so happy, because that was me at every carnival ever in my life. What is that? I must have it.
I just thought it was funny because in my head I thought, oh, she's going to be offended. No.
Mm-hmm.
Just, this is an alien.
Fell in love with it.
Yeah.
Oh,
I just laughed so hard.
We haven't even glossed over my favorite moment in the episode, by the way.
What? The Kamen Rider pose? That was my favorite.
Yep. Yeah, basically, after she decides to put the Velcro tablet on her, she goes ahead and shows it off like she just got a fucking thing in a video game. It's just like, ching, ching, and I'm like, my God, help.
Mm-hmm.
Peridot is such a humorous character.
Oh, God, yeah. So it's a heck of a lot of fun, and I really enjoyed these 3 span-off episodes, and I can't wait for us to do some more, because that was just a lot of fun.
And lucky for everybody else, we will be doing more, because that's what
of
we
course.
do.
Yes, no, you have more free time lately, and it's great because these are very easy to just do, right? Just watch 3 and then
poor. Matt laughs at me.
As I am also poor. What do you?
You have more free time, he says, because he's out of work. I cried.
As am I. Sort of. Not really.
You are in work. You have work.
But not as
days.
much as you. Yes, and I'm not even discussing my paycheck on air. I'll tell you. You know about my paycheck. You know about everything.
I was going to say, don't discuss your paycheck on air. There's no need to discuss your paycheck on air.
No, it's funny. I'll say it like this. It's not how much. It's just, some people know some jobs spread them out. So that's just basically what it is.
You know what it is?
It's not the amount. What?
It's not Greg either. It's not Greg money. I'll tell you that much, guys. Matt is not getting Greg money.
Can we just call it Greg money from now on? Just everywhere we go. Just, man, that bill costs a lot, but it's not Greg money.
I would like to make that a thing.
Okay, so we're going to try and make that a thing. And do you want to wrap things up here? Is there anything else you want to say about the 3 episodes before we...
I feel really bad for Mr. Smiley because he hasn't slept in 6 days. But
the fact that he could still look exactly the same, but because of a camera angle, that's why I love film, but because of the camera angle, he looks like he's sadistic and twisted.
Mm-hmm.
It's such a beautiful thing. Because he set it a little off, yes, but just the camera angle and the focus, and of course the colors used as well, the shadow, all of it was like, oh my God, he's now, I'm happy you enjoyed it, Steven, because I haven't slept in 6 days. No, I haven't seen a bed in 6 days. Which is the way I was like, oh God.
My God, you haven't seen a bed in 6 days? I'm so sorry.
Oh, man. Also, the fact that Onion was actually trying to light the roller coaster on fire.
That was great. I'm not going to fall for that one again. And they pan out, and he is actually doing that.
With cotton candy.
That seems like and apparently he's still paying off the last lawsuit.
Yes, Jesus Christ. I was like, yeah, I don't know if you guys want to go on those roller coasters.
Mm-hmm.
My God.
But yeah.
Anyway, this was just a lot of fun, and I want to thank you all, despite some of our errors via phones and whatnot. I mean, hey, live show, what you gonna do? But thank you all. Love you guys. And I just want to mention that, because we've mentioned some of our stuff as we've gone on throughout the episode, like I believe I mentioned our merchandise already, which is on thoseguysintheradio.tumblr.com/merchandise. But if I haven't, then I just did. Merchandise related to our podcast and our Let's Plays, our podcasts, one that you're hearing right now, most likely through our Blog Talk Radio, Those Guys in the Radio. And if not, you might be listening to it through our iTunes account, which is just Those Guys. Also, you can find the podcast on our YouTube channel, Those Guys on the Radio, which you can find by searching up Those Guys on the Radio, and our social media accounts like our Facebook, which is /Those Guys on the Radio, our Twitter, which is @Those Guys Radio, and our Instagram, which is /Those Guys on the Radio. And you can also be looking at our Let's Plays, potentially. Mentioned our Let's Plays before that you can find on YouTube by searching up Those Guys Play. Okay, good stuff. And email us for any questions and more at thoseguysintheradio@gmail.com. So thank you all. Hope you have a great night, and say good night, Satish.
Good night, Satish.